Yesterday, Bunny Boots graciously had me on his strategic noncompliance show with Mike BlueHair. I was objecting to statements made by Mike BlueHair that this man, John Elifritz, was murdered by the police. Murder has a legal definition. It's defined in all the states by statute. The common law definition, I don't believe, is used by anybody anymore. It's a statute crime, and it's defined by statute. It has a legal definition. It is an objective standard. It is not a subjective standard. When I brought this up on the stream to Mikey BlueHair, he then went on to say that he was using it in a moral and ethical manner. That's pretty meaningless. Vegans will tell you that killing cows and sheep and pigs for meat is murder, and it's not. Uh, Morality is a subjective thing. Everybody has their own. Society tends to favor particular ones that help to keep society functional, but that doesn't mean that anybody has a lock on what is or isn't objectively moral. It changes throughout time. Different religions have different moralities, different cultures have different moralities, different nations have different moralities. Even there's small town moralities, there's big city moralities. And just to kind of put things in context, because I know that right now everybody's thinking in their head, my morality is the correct morality. I just want to bring up abortion. Abortion is something that half of America thinks that the moral thing to do is to give birth to the baby. The other half of the country thinks that the moral thing to do is to allow a woman to choose whether or not to bring that pregnancy to term. Whatever side you're on, and it doesn't matter, whichever side you're on, half of the country disagrees with you. Half of the country disagrees with me. Morality is subjective. So to cloud the issue and say that you're talking about murder in a moral sense is meaningless. You're just flapping your lips. All you're saying is, I don't like what happened, and that's great. It's a free country. You're perfectly allowed to not like what's happened, but it's not murder. It's not murder unless it meets the statutory definition of murder. It also has to not be subject to any potential justification, and there are justifications for in Oregon for police dealing with arresting people for situations where officers or third parties are their lives are threatened, for dealing with people who've committed violent felonies who are committing violent felonies. So there are justifications for use of force. Now, whether or not what they did is justifiable, I don't know. But I would strongly suspect that what they did is not going to rise to the level where they actually get prosecuted. The standard set forth, this is Graham v. Connor. Graham v. Connor, U.S. Supreme Court, 1989. Great case. And what they held was that it is down to what the officers at the scene determine is reasonable. Here we go. The reasonableness of a particular use of force must be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene rather than with the 2020 vision of hindsight. The Fourth Amendment is not violated by an arrest based on probable cause, even though the wrong person is arrested, nor by the mistaken execution of a valid search warrant on the wrong premises. With respect to a claim of excessive force, the same standard of reasonableness at the moment applies. Not every push or shove, even if it may later seem unnecessary in the peace of a judge's chamber, violates the Fourth Amendment. The calculus of reasonableness must embody the allowance for the fact that the officers are often forced to make split-second judgments in circumstances that are tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving about the amount of force that is necessary in a particular situation. So, the reasonableness of a particular use of force must be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene, not with what they're trying to do here with the 2020 vision of hindsight. So was it reasonable? I don't know. What I do know is that 8 officers shot him. I do have an ad blocker. Thank you for noticing. Where does it say it? Here we go. No. Nope, nope. Here we go. 7 Portland police officers and 1 Multnomah County Sheriff's deputy were involved in the shooting and are on paid administrative leaves. So they're going to investigate and everything. They're going to submit it to a grand jury. That's great. But remember, it's the reasonableness must be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene. And we've got 8 officers who thought it was justified to shoot at the time. Maybe others did too. I don't know. But let's go over. So, all right, before I lose my place here. So, Mikey BlueHair was saying that he's saying it was murder. Then he said it was a moral issue of murder. But let's figure out what actually happened, because I think the details do help get an idea of what's going on with this situation, why it's not as cut and dry. So about 2:25 p.m., a man who identified, this article is not chronological order, that's why I'm going to jump around through it. Around 2:25, a man who identified himself as Elifritz called 911, reported his family had been murdered, and gave the location as 4400 block of Southeast 79th Avenue. The location, though, turned out to be a duplex under construction. A contractor at the location said a man fitting Elifritz's description had been outside, acting in a bizarre manner. No one was found inside, and police later confirmed Elifritz's family was safe. So, 2:25, we have a man who is delusional and acting in a bizarre manner. Police in East Precinct did locate Elifritz a short time later at Southeast 86th Avenue and Holgate Boulevard and attempted to contact him. But he backed away from them, retrieved a knife from his pocket, and held it up to his throat. Elifritz ran from officers, and a decision was to de-escalate the situation by not pursuing him. Keep that in mind. According to police. Instead, police decided they would make a referral to the Bureau's Behavioral Health Unit for follow-up. They showed 2 videos after they had gone over this, and one of the videos showed 2 American officers dealing with a man who was armed with a knife on the street, and they talked him down, they de-escalated the situation, and they resolved it without shooting him. That is basically what we're seeing here. The officers thought he's suicidal, so they're going to de-escalate the situation by letting him get away, maybe letting him cool off or whatever, but they didn't want to hurt him. Now, did they make the right decision? Hindsight's 20/20, but in this case, I don't know. I don't know. But then we're going to continue. As officers were still in the area, a community member came up to them, reported a man was waving a knife and just attempted to carjack him. The man didn't want to report the crime, but wanted to make the police aware, according to the news release. So a man waving a knife, attempted carjacking. That is an attempted felony. That's a felony. The attempt to carjack is a felony. So at 2:25, roughly 2:30, we have an attempted carjacking. Then at 4:37, a woman reported a 2003 silver Honda CR-V had been stolen from her by force at Southeast 72nd Avenue and Foster Road. Elifritz, police said, had jumped into the passenger seat and wrestled the driver for control of the vehicle. This is another carjacking at 4:37, so we've got at least 2 felonies. That was 2 hours after the initial encounter. Now at 7:30 p.m., we are now 5 hours after the initial encounter. The suspect crashed his stolen Honda on Southeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Never a safe place to be, but especially not at night. And ran from the vehicle into the Jackson's gas station convenience store, where a clerk told the Oregonian that he was rambling about suicide and murder while holding a knife to his own throat. So he's committed 2 felonies. I don't know if fleeing the scene of an accident in Oregon is a felony or a misdemeanor, so I won't count it, but he's committed 2 felonies, the attempted carjacking and the carjacking. He's delusional, he's acting bizarrely, he's rambling about suicide and murder, and he's holding a knife to his own throat. This is what the police are dealing with. I also want to point out at this juncture that he has convictions in Clackamas County for attempting to elude police, reckless driving, driving while suspended, recklessly endangering another, unauthorized use of vehicle, theft, and possession of controlled substances. I don't know if this is his full criminal record. I'm not going to pay anybody to find out, but he has a history of being a criminal. He has a history of criminal behavior. He's committed 2 violent crimes today, the attempted carjacking and the carjacking. And he is delusional and suicidal and mumbling about murder. He's 6'4" and 280 pounds. This is a big dude. There's some pictures of him around here. Here we go. That dude, look at that dude's arms. Bunny Boots thinks he's going to chair foo this guy with his black belt in chair fooology. I don't think so, bro. That's a big dude. And I've seen you, Bunny Boots. I mean, you might think you're scrappy, but this dude is going to eat your lunch. You know, you could be a keyboard warrior all you want, but you're internet badass. You're not hand-to-hand badass. I showed him a picture of the suspects. They confirmed it was the suspect. They let everybody know what was going on. I think that's why there's such a big police presence at the end. He ran into the shelter. He was holding a knife to his throat. In other reports, he had actually stabbed himself. In this one, I believe they state he had actually stabbed himself while in the somewhere in there that, oh yeah, here you go. Yeah. Once in the building, witnesses say Elifritz began stabbing himself and police shot him with beanbags before ultimately using lethal force. So this dude is crazy at this point. He's stabbing himself. Just those are all the facts. We're going to watch a 1 whole minute video. And remember, this has gone on now for over 5 hours. And people think this 1 minute video is going to somehow illuminate them that the police used unreasonable force. I'm not saying they did or they didn't. I'm just saying there's a lot of factors to take into account. First, this is him right here. He's behind this banister. I just want you to keep your eye on the chairs because they were making a big deal about this barricade of chairs, and I didn't see a barricade of chairs. That was the first shot. That would be a beanbag. Watch over here. He'll fire again. There. That's a beanbag. He's shooting beanbag rounds or rubber bullets.
Oh my God.
And it's having no effect. He's still moving around. He's the guy is not responding to the beanbags. I don't know if you've ever been shot with a beanbag. I've never been shot with a beanbag, but I've seen the bruises they leave on people, and those things come at you. That freeze right there, I don't know what that's all about. It's in the video, though. It's not me. All right, they just started firing. That was the first shot. I don't see a chair barricade. I don't see anything that's going to stop him. He's, remember, 6'4", 280 pounds. I don't see these little chairs slowing him down too much, and I don't see a barricade. A lot of shots. He's still standing, right? Remember, Bunny Boots thinks with his little spindly arms and his need to use a cane to walk, he thinks that he's going to pick up a chair and take this guy down. This guy just got shot by 8 cops. And there he goes down. Hindsight's 20/20, dude, but you're not gonna. No, you're not gonna. So we've already seen where the video that they showed with the 2 American police officers that talked down the suicidal guy. But they showed videos, another video of a couple of UK police that took down a man armed with a knife, and they didn't resort to using firearms. Well, I can play too. This is BBC News. Luton police recover a number of knives. Well, why would they recover a number of knives? A number of knives were found at the scene where a man was shot by police, investigators say. He died from a single gunshot wound from police. Interesting. A forensic examination of the scene took place and a number of knives were recovered. Post-mortem examination on Friday gave the provisional cause of death as a single gunshot wound to the chest. In the UK, see, these are UK police. This is BBC. This is in Luton. Or what about in Hull? Hull police shooting. Lewis Skelton had a mental health condition. Lewis Skelton, 31, was shot and tasered by police officers in Francis Street on Tuesday. He died in a hospital. The IPCC said he was injured when a firearms officer discharged 2 live rounds, following reports of a man carrying an axe. Oh my. Finally, we have Khalid Massoud. He drove a truck of peace into a crowd of people, and then he attacked. He killed PC would be Police Constable Keith Palmer. They made a big deal about showing how police have tasers and hand-to-hand training and ASPs and all these sorts of things, and the police should be able to take down an armed man without getting hurt. Well, PC Keith Palmer died. How did PC Keith Palmer died? Well, he stabbed PC Palmer before being shot dead. Interesting. So you want the police to subject themselves to knife attack. Now you're going to say, oh, well, it's only a box cutter. You can kill people with a box cutter. They have literally hijacked airplanes with box cutters. You can definitely die. If you get slashed in an artery or something with a box cutter, you can die. It's not something that people want to mess with. Now, finally, after pointing out that there are options, I pointed out that there's 18 U.S.C. 242. The U.S. can charge somebody with the crime of violating their Fourth Amendment rights. There's also 42 U.S.C. 1983. You can personally sue someone for violating your Fourth Amendment right. And this is a Fourth Amendment. If you're assault, or if they use unreasonable force in arresting you, the arrest is a seizure. Therefore, it's a Fourth Amendment test, and you or your state can sue for the deprivation of those rights. Mikey BlueHair pointed out that not everybody has access to a lawyer. That is absolutely true. That's 100% true. There are lots of resources available. There are, self-help clinics. There's pro bono lawyers. There are lawyers who will work on contingency. There's the ACLU. There are lawyers who will take no money up front. They'll take all their fees at the end of a case, and that's great and everything. But you need to ask yourself, if you can't get a lawyer to do it on a contingency where he doesn't get paid unless he wins, that means that lawyers are looking at it and they're saying, well, there's a good chance we won't win. Or else they'd be willing to do that, because a lot of these 1983 suits, if somebody dies, there's a lot of money at stake. And it doesn't matter that the guy was a career criminal. I have seen large payouts to families of criminals who were killed by police unjustly. So, yes, not everybody has equal access to the courts, but you have to remember that people can also file pro se. There's videos on how to do it. You can go to law schools. A lot of times they'll have like clinics where you can go into and you can talk to law school students that can give you some, better than nothing legal advice on how to approach a situation and what you need to do to file. Judges will typically give a pro se litigant a little more leeway than they would give a lawyer. They don't expect you to come up with all the pertinent cases and stuff. Unless you're a jerk, they'll tend to be a little helpful. They'll try to give you the benefit of the doubt on all your filings and things like that. But no, not everybody is going to have the same kind of access to sue, and that's sad and everything. That doesn't make what the officers did reasonable or unreasonable. It doesn't make what the officers did murder legally or an unjustified killing. I'm not. It's hard to say. I mean, I didn't see the guy lunging, but there is an eyewitness. The video was shot by this Morgan Pickering, and he says Elifritz lunged at the officers, and the officers were 100% justified in shooting him. I didn't see it, but you got to remember when you're watching these videos that you're seeing everything in one dimensional. There's one camera. You're not seeing everything bifocal, so it does distort distances. There's frame rates where your eyes don't see in frames. Your eyes are seeing frameless. So you don't have any like frame rate issues. You don't have any blurring issues, things like that. So it's different being there. I'm not going to say that a witness is better than a camera. They're not, but we have the standard in Graham, and the standard is what an officer would, in the situation, would find reasonable. And 8 of the officers thought it was reasonable to shoot. So I hope this was informative. I hope you've enjoyed it. I did enjoy. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the stream with Bunny Boots and Mikey BlueHair, and I know I'm giving Bunny Boots a lot of, I'm razzing him over his being a keyboard tough guy, but there is reality. I mean, reality is this was a really big dude who wasn't being stopped by beanbag bullets, and reality is reality. But I do appreciate Bunny Boots having me on. I always appreciate Bunny Boots when he goes out and does audits. I think he is one of. I very much appreciate his silent approach to audits. I always found those to be very entertaining, and even when he does talk, he seems to be able to handle himself with a lot of composure that some of these newer auditors are lacking. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to be disrespectful to Bunny Boots. I kind of am. I'm consider it to be playful teasing, though. Have a great day. Bye.